So you've got your PCS orders to relocate to a new duty location. You've got your information from the transportation office. You've gone into MilMove. You've set up your household goods move, your unaccompanied baggage, or your non-temp storage, or even your partial ditty move. So now, if you're doing anything but a partial ditty move, you're going to be involved with having a government contract movers come out to your house and pack up your household goods or pack up your unaccompanied baggage or your non-temp storage and move it to your next duty station. So now, how do you prepare your house to get ready for the movers before they get here? We're going to get into that and a lot more right now. Hey guys, I'm Chris, your real estate problem solver of Middle Georgia. I'm a real estate agent and an investor in the Middle Georgia area. I've also been a civil service employee of Robins Air Force Base for over 25 years as an aircraft mechanic and then as a transportation QA inspector in the transportation office. So I know a little bit about doing a PCS move, the military relocation process, CONUS moves, OCONUS moves, and getting your house ready when the movers come to do your household goods or your unaccompanied baggage move. So let's get into some of the most common questions that you ask about how to get your house ready to make your PCS move as smooth as possible. So what should you do with your house before the movers arrive for your PCS move? Well, the first and foremost, you need to clean everything up. Packing stuff up and putting it into a box or putting it into crates to go overseas is going to give you a real big surprise if there's a lot of stuff that is dirty, if there's any moisture, if you've got wet towels, wet dishes. So make sure that anything that you do not even think that you're going to need, go ahead and throw it away. Go ahead and have a yard sale, sell off as much as you can, because you have a weight limit based on your rank. So if you are over that weight limit, anything over that weight limit, and they're going to weigh the vehicle and your stuff when they leave, and a lot of times they're going to weigh it again at destination. And if you're overweight, you could end up having to pay for any overages. Now, an easy way to figure out your weight is we usually figure about 1,000 pounds per fully furnished room. Of course, you're going to triple up on the bathrooms, but for the most part, that gives you a good number. Now, the garage is going to be a little bit more difficult. I would probably figure that about on an average furnished garage, maybe 2 rooms, so 2,000 pounds roughly. Of course, if you've got a weight set or a multi-gym out in the garage, if you're a heavy garage fanatic and you've got a lot of tools, then you're going to have to accommodate for that. If you've got a jack and a way to put a scale underneath your toolbox, you might want to try that also. Again, when the movers get contracted to do your move, one of the surveyors from the moving company is going to be calling you, and they're probably going to be doing FaceTime. If you've got anything that is unusually large, or if you think it's unusually heavy, like a piano, like a gun safe, like your snap-on toolbox, make sure that they see it, make sure that they know that you've got it, and they can usually do a pretty good job of estimating your total weight. And let them know, if they think that you're going to go over your entitlement, let you know as soon as possible. All right, so now you've got the house all cleaned up, the dishes are clean, the laundry's all dry, and everything's put away like it's supposed to be on a normal day. Now that the mover's going to be coming, they're going to have all the packing materials and all the boxes and all the tape that they are required to have in order to do your move. So you don't have to pre-box anything. As a matter of fact, it's probably better just to leave everything out and let them pack it all up for you. That way, number one, it's being packed up by a professional, and number two, if anything goes wrong, well, they're the ones that packed it up, not you. So they can't say that it was your fault. Now, if you're going overseas, then chances are you may have an unaccompanied baggage move, which is usually about 500 pounds or less for the member, and then a lesser amount for each individual member dependent that's going with you. So your unaccompanied baggage will be a smaller amount, and it's going to be separate from your household goods move. So if at all possible, try to think about everything that you can put into your unaccompanied baggage. Now, your unaccompanied baggage move is intended to tide you over until your household goods moves arrive. So don't load it down with a bunch of stuff that you don't really need. And whatever you decide you want to go into your unaccompanied baggage move, try to put it in a separate room or someplace separated away from the rest of your stuff, or if you can clearly mark it with caution tape or something like that. So the movers that do your unaccompanied baggage move only take stuff for unaccompanied baggage. Also, as a side note, make sure that you only date your pickup days for your household goods, for your unaccompanied baggage, and for your non-temp storage at least 2 days apart. Because if you have two different crews show up, one for unaccompanied baggage and one for household goods, number one, it's going to get confusing and people are going to be stepping on each other, so you don't want that. Also, they may or may not have the right to turn down the pickup because they're supposed to have free reign of the parts of the house that they need. And a lot of times they will cancel the pickup because there's somebody else in the house that's in their way. So make sure you have all your pickup dates on different days: household goods, unaccompanied baggage, and non-temp storage. And I usually suggest doing it in the order of unaccompanied baggage first. If something can't go in it, you can fall back on household goods. And then if something can't go with you on household goods, you can fall back on non-temp storage, which will stay here in the United States until you get back. All right, so now you've got the main house clean and organized. Your different shipments have been separated. Anything that you don't need, you've already gotten rid of, or you gave away to the neighbors, or you had a yard sale. Well, did you think about the attic? So if you're moving your stuff and you have things in the attic, you're going to have to bring those things down and have them ready for the movers. Unless the attic is a walk-in attic designed to be occupied space, then the movers are not allowed to go in there. So make sure that you pull your stuff out of the attic and have it ready for them as well. Otherwise, you may end up leaving it behind. Now, this is not your first move and you've got boxes that were packed on the last move and you still got them packed up and you just haven't done anything with them, which I've seen quite a few of them do that. Make sure to look over the boxes and peel off any old labels or any markings. That way there's no confusion about this move. Also, if you have large TVs or anything that you still have the box, make sure to keep the box, because if they can put it back in the original box, that is much safer than them wrapping it up and putting it in a different box. So if you buy a TV, if you buy a computer, if you buy a microwave or the toaster or the blender, keep those boxes and save them, because the movers would prefer to put them back in the original box if at all possible. Also, speaking of boxing things up, if the surveyor comes around and by chance they do have anything that they're going to require a third-party service, like for instance, taxidermy heads are a common one. If you've got a mounted fish or a deer head that's going to need to be crated up or special protection, and they give you a crate or they make a crate for that item, do not get rid of it and do not let them take it. The government will pay for one crating of one item. They will not pay for it again. So when you get to destination, break down that crate, unscrew it, or whatever it takes to disassemble it, and hold on to it, because you're going to need it the next time you have another household goods move. Now, if you have a taxidermy head, then chances are you killed that animal yourself, which means you've got weapons. Well, can government moves take weapons? Yes, they can. And that's going to be a question in MilMove that asks you, do you want them to carry weapons? If you don't, then you can always do a partial ditty and take your weapons with you yourself. If you want them to take the weapons with them, take pictures of the weapons, record the serial number. They're going to ask you for the make, model, serial number, and sometimes they'll ask where you got it from, but I'll leave that up to you. And once you record all that, keep a record of that. When the movers get there, they're going to start a chain of custody form, and they're going to fill out all that information, and they're going to include that as a copy in the box that they keep your weapons in. Now, usually each weapon is going to be boxed individually, and then all of those are going to be boxed in one larger box, and then that box is going to get, that's a lot of boxes. then the final shipping box is going to have a tamper seal put on it. And then you should get a copy of the chain of custody letter. If you are going overseas, like Hawaii, you can take your weapons to Hawaii. They got plenty of pigs over there. If it goes into a crate, which is being shipped overseas in your household goods move, usually what they'll do is they'll put that box in the first crate. So crate labeled number 1 is going to have your weapons in it. As a side note, make sure to take pictures and videos of everything in the house. That way you have documentation of what your items look like before the move. That way if it does get damaged, you got proof of it was not damaged before the move. So make sure to take videos and pictures. Some people will turn the TV on and show it's working and videotape that before they shut it down. Alright, so the next common question is, what will movers not pack? Well, aerosol cans, hazardous liquids, anything that can melt in the heat like soft candles or soft plastics. Any of this stuff, they will not be able to pack it up. Now, dry goods or canned goods, usually they don't have a problem with that. Wine or medicine that still has the factory label on it, toothpaste, shampoos, as long as you have not opened it and it still has the factory seal on it, then they usually don't have a problem with that. If you have already opened it, then they will probably not take it. So you need to be prepared to either dispose of that stuff and get something new when you get to your destination, or if you really need to take it, make provisions to do a partial ditty move or PPM. Now, even though these items may have a factory seal on them, the movers can still have the right to deny picking it up. So if you do have anything that's liquid or possibly hazardous, then even with a factory seal on it, they may turn it down. So just be aware of that. Now, a lot of times military members doing a military relocation are going to have their own pro gear. Now, keep in mind of what pro gear is. Pro gear is considered anything pertaining to your job that you're going to. So if you are in the medical field and you have medical reference books, or if you have a laptop, or if you have any specialty equipment pertaining to your job, that is pro gear, and that will not count against your total entitlement weight. Field jackets, chem suits, anything like that will be considered pro gear. Now, your trophies, your coins, those are memorabilia, and they're going to have to go with you. They do not count as pro gear, so just be aware of that. So you get the idea of what pro gear is and pro gear is not. So make sure that you separate that, put it over in the corner, and when the movers get there, point it out, let them know that this is your pro gear, and they will document it and pack it separately. Another common question about getting the house prepared for a PCS move includes the kids and your scheduling. Well, if a household goods move is 8,000 pounds, they usually figure about 4,000 to 6,000 pounds per day. So you can guarantee that they're going to be there for at least 2 days. Make sure that you've got a babysitter if possible, and make sure you do not schedule the sale of your house, the closing date, while the movers are there. Because you're supposed to be the supervisor, you're supposed to be monitoring the move. And if you're not there, technically anything can happen and there's nothing you can do about it because you didn't witness it. So make sure that you've got your schedule clear for any time when the movers are going to be there. Also, if you've got dogs or cats that prefer not to mingle with outside family, make sure that you have provisions for them. If you can take them to a neighbor, if they bark a lot, that would definitely be a big help to put them with a pet sitter or a neighbor or somebody else's house, because the movers can get it along a lot faster if they're not worried about getting bit or if their ears aren't ringing from all the howling. When the movers pack up your electronic stuff, what's usually supposed to happen is they will mark on the outside of the box the make and model and serial number of the electronic item, whether it's your stereo, DVD player, VHS player, yeah, I'm going vintage, and anything that's electronic that has a serial number, including your laptops and computers. So make sure that they mark the outside of the box. And make sure that if there's anything like remotes or toy cars that have batteries, go ahead. It's probably safer to take the batteries out and keep them with you. That way, if anything happens and those batteries bleed and start corroding things, then you won't end up having to get another remote when you get to destination. Now, speaking of batteries, they have implemented a lithium restriction. So anything that has lithium batteries, like a DeWalt drill or your lawnmower, anything larger than a DeWalt drill is usually going to be too big and they won't accept it. So make sure to check with the TMO office and check with the counselor about the size of lithium batteries that are allowed. And anything that's bigger than that, you're going to have to take with you. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, specifically, if you're going overseas and you're going to be ordering a non-temp storage move, that means the items that are going into non-temp storage are going to get packed up like a normal household goods move, and then they're going to take it back to a warehouse. It's all going to get put into a crate, and that crate's going to sit on the shelf until such time that you come back. Now, these warehouses are not environmentally controlled. They are warehouses with adequate ventilation, adequate pest control, and they are protected and they're under contract by the government to sustain a certain standard of cleanliness. So you don't have to worry about your items, but it will get hot and it will get cold. So make sure that if you have any items that are sensitive to temperature, like thermometers or antique items, make sure to give them a good cleaning. Anything that's wood, make sure you wipe them down real good with your favorite restoration oils. And if you have any weapons that you're going to be leaving behind in non-temp storage, make sure to clean all your weapons and make sure you give them a good rub down of oil before they go into storage. Now, if you are going overseas, then chances are you may be taking your own vehicle or you may be leaving a vehicle in storage. So if you have that case where you're going to be sending a vehicle or putting your vehicle in storage, make sure to contact PCS.myPOV.com, I believe it is. At the top, they should have a tab that says location. You click on location. That's going to show you a map of the United States, and you'll see the location that's nearest to you. That's where you're going to drop off your vehicle, whether you're storing it or you're shipping it over. Now, you should be getting a form of authorization to either ship or store your vehicle from the TMO office. So make sure you get a copy of that first before you call them, because they're going to be asking for that. And then contact them directly and get a checklist of how they want you to prepare the car before shipping or before storing. It usually entails changing the oil and making sure the oil's good, making sure the vehicle is completely clean. Make sure that if you have a lien on the car, if you have a car loan, that you get a letter from the bank saying that they approve you to send your vehicle overseas. Some storage companies are going to want you to have the vehicle either completely full of gas or less than a quarter tank of gas. So make sure to ask them about that. Check the air in the tires. Make sure that everything is wiped down and clean. And that way, when you get to your drop-off point, you can drop it off. They'll take you to the airport, and then you can hit the plane and get out of here. So we've got a full playlist of military relocation tips and tricks to help you make your PCS move go as smooth as possible. And if you're coming to Robins Air Force Base, make sure to look me up. I'm Chris, the real estate problem solver in Middle Georgia, and I'll help you find the next house that you need for your stay here at Robins Air Force Base. And I'll talk to you on the next video.